Welcome everybody to the fourth season of the OC show. This is the first episode for the fourth season, and this is a brand new season because there's new people hosting the show, new contents, of course. There's always a lot of fun as usual because that's all we care about, fun and overclock, because it's the OC show. Together with me, there is Libor, Buildzoid, and Toolius, two amazing people that will be hosts together with me tonight, today, this morning, everywhere you look at this video from YouTube, Twitch, live, I don't care. We're live. So there you go, guys.
All right, so well, I'm Julius. I'm from India, Bombay, pretty much, and well, for the people that kind of know me, they do. But for the people that don't know me, I'm kind of an overclocker. I, run my own computer company, build workstations, and pretty much a geek. And I like to screw around with hardware. So that's pretty much me.
So I guess that's my turn then. So I'm Buildzoid. I run a YouTube channel called Actually Hardcore OverClocking. I do a lot of overclocking and mostly sort of focused on the more like the electrical side of the overclocking stuff, and so like VRMs and that kind of thing. And I'm from the Czech Republic, currently living in the UK and studying computer science at university. So, yeah.
About me, you may already know me from... No, I'm just kidding. I'm Ciro. Just call me Atlas. I'm a hardware reviewer, overclocker when I don't have to work so much, but let's just ignore the fact that I don't overclock anymore because I don't have spare time for me. Okay, guys.
You're busy.
Yes, too much work is gonna kill me. But let's just talk about the topics of today. Let's kick off with the competitions on HW bot, and let's see how the people are performing on the bot, because it's always nice to see some competition, some people getting on each other's necks for the last point. So the first competition we're gonna take a look at is the ROG OC Showdown team competition. So the Mad Shrimps team, that should be the Dankop team, right? It's
Mad Shrimps? No, that's Belgium.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Dan's team, right?
What?
No?
Legal.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
That's right. Okay. And Mad Shrimps won the contest, and we can share with you, I think we can share with you the link for the competition. Okay, so it was a competition all between half of April and the beginning of June. Of course, ROG Showdown, ROG-based hardware. And in the end, the Mad Shrimp team won the competition. You can see the scores are really tight, really close. So it was a really tough competition for all the participants in this showdown. A note that we wanted to talk about was the fact that the French team came up with a really cool name. They called themselves the Asus Baguette team. So
That was awesome.
Huge shout out for the
Whoever came up with that one is genius.
Yeah, guys, like genius name. I mean,
but yeah, I mean, Mad Shrimps totally they dominated. I mean, they won quite a few rounds, and then just super consistent. If you look at them, they've always finished in like the top 3, regardless of each round. And I think that's what kind of led them to win. Just sheer
they also sandbagged really hard. I'm mostly annoyed because r/overclocking was holding first place, which is my team, and we were sitting on first place, and then 24 hours before the end, and then I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh, Mad Shrimps. It's like I was honestly expecting something like that to happen just because it's normal for competitions all the time.
Yeah, the board. I mean, you expect sandbagging.
And personally, it's just like I really enjoyed the competition because it forced me to run a GTX 1070 on liquid nitrogen.
That's something.
That's like if I was just doing the usual ladder benching, I'd never go do that. Just because I don't like NVIDIA and I don't like Tencent. And then Pascal is just like, no, it's way too expensive.
You say that, guys.
But our team, like the whole team was doing really well. So it was like, well, I'm the only person with LN2 capabilities on the team because we're a, very rookie, novice, heavy team. And so I was like, well, I'm the only person with LN2 on the team, so I guess I better do something. And I don't know anything about LGA 775, like nothing. I have no idea what the motherboards even look like. So I was like, well, I can't do stage 4, can I? So stage 5 it was, and it was definitely a great competition, especially just I enjoyed it. Like nice selection of benchmarks.
True. I think the rules too.
Yeah. The rules were cool. It really brought out. You had to have a full team. You couldn't really have 5 people who just had a truckload of hardware.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a really nice competition because you had a lot of the rookies and novice overclockers could go for stage 1, stage 2, stage 3.
Yeah.
Stage 3 was enthusiast as well.
Stage 1 was very interesting, I thought.
At least for my team, it's a lot of the guys who jump in and start rookie and then they go to novice. By the time they're in novice, they are really out there for blood in terms of overclocking on water cooling. So it's at that point, I pretty much consider the novice division of my team to be pretty much enthusiast anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So basically stage 1 to 3, you're competitive even if you're really, really new. I personally wish there was more extreme stages, just because I was stuck with choosing between a socket I've never seen before and benching an NVIDIA graphics card. So, you
got out of your comfort zone.
It's you need to try new things, otherwise you never make progress.
True. Stage 4, I think, was beautiful because it was just, I was really happy to see, old school hardware come back and people really push it. I mean, 670 something megahertz was what I think the winner got on the Rampage Extreme. Yeah, I'm reading this. 676 megahertz. Those are some really nice clocks, and just good to see old hardware, shine in the limelight. So it doesn't really have to be expensive. Of course, these boards nowadays are expensive, but competitions like this, they kind of let you have some cheap OC fun, if you want to call it that. They'll let you go out and buy some old hardware.
Stage 1, right? Stage 1, stage 2, a lot of people were running daily systems just because of how the competition is set up.
True.
Stage 3, you needed a big water cooler, but you could still run a daily. You could totally do stage 3 on a daily. And then stage 4 and 5, I had a bunch of the new guys on my team go for stage 4. Because LGA 775 is so cheap that it was people were just going on eBay, and it's the first 775 motherboard with the right chipset, buy.
Yeah, exactly. So it was
because then the CPUs go for nothing second hand.
Nothing. You really
it's a really that is a nice stage. It's just I never saw that socket, so I felt well, it'd be better if I put my efforts into something where my team really needs the help. Which was stage 5.
Stage 5, yeah,
for us.
Clocks. Yeah, yep.
And even on stage 5, it's they banned the 1080 Ti, they banned the Titan X, and actually the entire Titan class of GPUs. So it wasn't you needed to for a lot of extreme overclockers, I feel the 1080 Ti move was no 1080 Ti move was annoying because a lot of guys would have the 1080 Ti because it's competitive on global points for the main ranking. But for the competition, it's I was able to actually not get completely obliterated on a 1070, which was nice for once. So
I mean, I like how this is being set up, and even in the future, for example, if you have competitions with cheaper GPUs, say something like your RX 550s or your RX 560s in that price bracket, say 1050 Ti or something like that.
I mean, we saw Gigabyte sort of go for that with a different competition earlier this year, which I can't remember the name of right now, but that was That was the GT730 and the i3-7350K.
Yeah, I mean, competitions like that are actually good fun because you don't really need to spend too much money. And even if you do blow up a card or two, hey, it's not so bad.
It's a 730. Who cares?
Exactly.
Like they sell you 10 of those for $1. Like,
well, actually, the 730 is, I think, bordering on that point. Like the 710 is really cheap, right? But the 730 is like twice the price of the 710, and really still really slow because it's the same core as a 710. So that card is like, but you can get it secondhand cheap. Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're buying it, it's going to be expensive, but you can get it secondhand for very little. So
very little.
It's nice when we see these kinds of competitions, and then bringing. I think this was like the first team competition where it was like this really brings out an entire team, regardless of if you just started overclocking or if you've been overclocking for years. So
and 107 teams too. So that's awesome to see that 107 teams actually competed. So, this was a lovely competition. I'm sad I couldn't compete, but this was a beautiful competition.
Yeah, me neither. Elite. Perks of being elite. Yeah, speaking of other competitions, before we jump in the next competition that is going to be really important for the next month, we will just give you a quick look at the topics we will discuss tonight. So there's going to be a discussion about the cryptocurrencies because there was this huge drop in the cryptocurrencies values. Many manufacturers launched their mining dedicated card. And so the situation is not really stable. It's really unstable. Of course, it's not stable. It's unstable, and there's a lot of fuss going on. So we're gonna talk about that. Also, speaking of fuss, there was a small, let's call it small, problem with the Skylake and Kaby Lake lineups, because
the HT bug.
Exactly. It seems the hyperthreading has a bug that caused the system to totally halt under certain conditions. So this will direct the discussion on the X299 platforms, and everything is going to be really discussed because it's a really important topic in this moment. Like many people are talking about these things. Also, like 2 days ago, Roman Hartung, our dear Bauer, came up with a video talking about the X299 VRMs. And it seems the launch was really rushed because there's some poor management for the Heatsink designs, VRM designs. So we'll take a look at that. And other than that, we will see where the discussion will go on. So let's get back to the competitions. The competitions we'll take a look tonight is also the Gigabyte Beat the Heat, because it seems that Gigabyte wants us to overclock the crap out of our systems despite being so freaking hot. I mean, I'm literally melting on the chair right now.
Sorry, in Italy. Here in the UK, it's been raining again.
Tell me something I don't know.
Talking about rain, it's been pouring back here as well. It's full-blown monsoon season, so we have like these insane storms that come by. So it'll pour for like 3 hours and then stop for 20 minutes and then pour again for 3 hours. It's just, So if I do disappear, out of the blue, I will blame it on the weather because the internet here can get flaky at times. Yeah, but like right now, it's actually pouring right now, and that's why my cats are in my room. Yeah, well. But yeah.
I wish it would rain here. It's literally dry and hot.
I saw your post on on Facebook.
34. Today
if you die,
you're taking everything I have. Don't worry.
That's all I need to know.
Okay, let's talk about the competition. Gigabyte is setting up this new competition called Beat the Heat. Well, the name tells it all. They want us to push the boundaries of overclocking, as usual. And
by sitting at 5 gigahertz.
Yes.
Well,
that's
they're
not
talking
pushing
about-
really much, but
They're talking
they,
On
about the
KB like
efficiency.
especially, but
yeah.
They're talking about efficiency here.
Yeah, but
like,
they said no LN2, no ES, no unreleased hardware, so it's
I mean,
not.
I
that
think
easy.
Gigabyte's just been killing it this year with competitions. Like,
Yeah,
there's
they
been
have
a
been.
competition since, like, there was
Almost
March
every
Madness,
month.
and then it's been every month we get a new competition, and, you know,
Good job.
What's not to like?
Seriously, yeah, what's not to like? I mean, it's a
It's
win-win,
like-
and I'm liking how they're planning these competitions. So it's giving a lot of people who don't have access to LN2, you know, access to actually benching, getting some points, doing something nice. Yeah, this is. I'm actually liking how this is.
Yeah,
going.
I mean, the 5 gigahertz limit restriction basically means if you have a, like, this is also restricted to
unreleased
Z270,
hardware,
so you really
yeah,
should have a
it's
KB
not-
Lake CPU. If you have a KB Lake and you can't do 5 gigahertz, there is
I feel for you.
really, really wrong with what you're
I
doing.
feel for you. I feel for you.
It's like,
I will say
you've got,
RMA.
like, it's either you, your motherboard, or you got the, like, bottom 10% CPU. Literally. Because,
True.
like, there isn't a KB that can't do 5, pretty much. So, some of them might need a ton of voltage to do it, but they'll still do it. So,
They'll still do it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
and especially
it's
if you
like,
deal
so
with the
it's a
guys,
very,
so-
very accessible competition. If you have an i7 7700K, go for it. Also,
Go for
the
it.
other thing is Gigabyte has been doing lucky prize draws for every single competition so far, and this one is no different. So basically, even if you're not, you know, as long as you have a Z270 motherboard made by Gigabyte, you can turn up, and even if your scores are garbage, you still get a chance to win one of the lucky draw prizes for the
Yeah.
competition. So it's like,
So just give it a shot.
for
You've got nothing to lose.
like,
Yeah,
just
go
post
for it.
whatever. Go for it.
$2,500 in prizes, guys. I mean, that's even what you can go out and buy a CPU just to try to win the prize. I mean, it's a
Really?
win-win
I
situation.
think that's like almost like just going and betting on in lotteries,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, like
actually, I think your odds are better here. With how
Yeah,
many
and-
people will
yeah.
turn up to the competition, which I'll guess, say maybe 100.
Yeah.
1 to 100 odds, really not that bad.
Yeah,
Go post a stock run. I mean, who cares? Just go post something. But
Yeah,
post. I mean, try. Give it a
It's
shot.
like Gigabyte and Z270, and you're ready to go. I'm actually
Yeah.
considering pulling out the Z270 Wi-Fi ITX motherboard, which I've been using for all the Gigabyte competitions this year so far.
Nice.
It hasn't blown up yet.
Yeah,
Impressive.
It's a 3-phase. But no,
that's a nice
it does even that
commercial
motherboard. Even that motherboard does 5 gigahertz. It actually goes past 5 gigahertz. So
Well, there you
Well,
go.
really, it's like even I could pull that out and go for this competition. And I'm actually considering it because, yeah. But then there's the fact that it does have an XTU stage, and I'm not a big XTU fan. So it depends how I manage my time. I might be able to post some scores.
Okay, so from the direction of the show, I got a news about the HWBot Roki Rumble that is gonna end in 14 hours, maybe in like 12 hours, 14 hours. So
So 14 hours.
14
yeah,
hours.
so it's like really, really tight. If you still want to participate in this competition, you should rush your systems and try to.
What? No. This is when you
participating
start
yours-
pulling out the sandbags.
Sandbags, exactly. I mean, look here,
Like,
rookie.
Let's
You don't
Yeah,
bench
you're the
in the
sandbag.
14 hours. You were
Yeah.
supposed to bench the month before, pile up scores, just higher. And then when these last 14 hours come, you sit there and you post steadily higher scores.
Yep. Just to
Just
leave it
make
for the
sure you
last half
don't
an hour.
like the problem is if there's like a high traffic period on OCE Sports or HW Bot,
Exactly. You won't be able to submit.
some competitions will trigger a situation where like the site just submissions stop working.
I
And
saw that happening. Wait,
so basically it's like you can sandbag, just don't try to sandbag in the last minute because you
That's
might not
exactly
actually
what
make.
I meant. Yeah.
exactly.
Just
Yeah.
But yeah, it is.
half an hour before it shuts, get your scores in. You don't want to wait for the last 10-15 minutes because it
Yeah.
can get weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna
Actually,
be
361
overflow.
overclockers participating. That's a
That's
a
fair
lot of
amount.
people.
Yeah.
yeah. Consider it's rookie only. So those are people that are starting to overclock, and that looks great. I mean, it's what we're looking at. It's what we're looking for. We're looking for new guys getting their systems overclocked, like even 100 megahertz or something like that.
This is open to 10-core CPUs? Oh, it's per core. So actually, you'll be competitive even with an i3 in this because it's per core.
Per core. Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, if you turn up with an i3 and you're going up against like somebody with a 6950X, you're fine because your i3 does 5 gigahertz and 5 times 2 divided by 2 is 5, whereas 10 times 4.4 divided by 10 is still about 4.4. So you'll have a clock advantage, and it's per core.
And an IPC advantage as well. I mean,
I mean that's the main thing. It's a per core competition. I really feel like these should be.
i3s.
What?
The highest scores are on i3. So
seriously?
Yeah, the first two scores for the XTU stage are on
the guy at the top is a i3-7350K.
And the second one too.
Good job.
So
yeah, it's probably because that CPU puts out the least heat, so it's the easiest to hammer.
Yeah,
like you can hammer it on like a 120 millimeter AIO. You can literally just slam it with voltage and it still won't overheat.
I mean, I still think that CPU is useless, but if you want to have fun,
I mean, for overclocking, just pure overclocking standpoint, it's a cool CPU because it's a 2-core, and there's so many you have 2-core rankings, right?
Yeah,
and
but the price tag is a bit too high.
I'm just sad that CPU never got sold here. You know, they don't sell the i3-7350K in India.
Really?
Seriously? I would have
thought
the damn
CPU India here. Yeah, I mean,
I would have thought that India would be one of the places where they would sell it. Like,
it boggles the mind. It really boggles the mind. It just shows, because I mean, I guess in a way they think that they're thinking that okay, it's $170 i3 and you can buy a $180 i5 or a $200 i5 here. So maybe that is what they're thinking, that no one would buy it, but they still don't understand that there are plenty of people who are making, cheap machines, who would like the clock speed, like to have some fun, even in the mini ITX home theater PCs. I mean, with the 1060, you can still game, you can have a good time. So, yeah, I don't get it. And for cheap overclockers, it's a dream. I mean, hell, it would make so much sense if they had.
I mean, it's still it's still pretty expensive by CPU standards because you are looking at if you just look overall performance, you're looking at the same price as a Ryzen 5 4-core.
Yeah.
Which,
and that's, I guess, part of the reason why they don't sell it.
That's not a great value proposition, and you can still overclock the Ryzen 5 4-cores as well. But for HW bot ranking specifically, it's pretty much a must-have. You should have a 7350K because
exactly.
I doubt we'll ever see another overclockable 2-core again. Who
knows? Who knows?
I don't know. Intel might put one out, but AMD doesn't seem to be willing to put out anything less than 4 with Ryzen. I don't think they can make anything less than. Maybe one of the APUs will be a 2 with hyperthreading, but even then, I'm not seeing.
The Athlon X4950, I think. If you go on the QVL for,
is that actually Ryzen or is that the Bristol Ridge, or no? What's it?
It's Raven Ridge.
Okay.
It's.
I did not know that would exist.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, but that still won't outclock the i3 though. It's a Ryzen. It won't outclock the i3.
But let's stay on topic, guys, or we'll end up derailing on other topics that we don't care about.
The show will go on for 6 hours.
Exactly. We don't have 6 hours, so let's skip to the next topic. We'll talk about cryptocurrencies. This week was quite particular because there was a huge drop in every single cryptocurrency value. You can see on CoinMarketCap, that is the main website to check the price for every cryptocurrency, that everything went down at least 30%. The one that got it most was, of course, Ethereum. That is the most mined cryptocurrency right now. And we're looking at many manufacturers like Asus, MSI, Sapphire, someone else.
Galax. Galax, I believe, announced one. Have all announced basically mining cards,
Exactly.
Yeah, but they aren't really cheaper. And I mean, right now, so the couple of biggest currencies I think people are mining right now is obviously Ethereum, but they're also doing this Zcash, and then they're also dual mining. So with NVIDIA cards, even with AMD cards, you can actually dual mine using this Claymore miner thing. So you can mine 2 coins at the same time, which is, it kind of boosts profit every day by about a few dollars, but for what it's worth. One of the biggest reasons I think the price drop actually happened was because there was like this rumor that one of the founders of Ethereum died in a car crash. This guy called Vitalik Buterin or something like that. I'm forgetting his name, but Vitalik something. And well, that one was proved to be fake pretty quickly, and that resulted in panic selling, and then that just kept going. So it fell from 400 to almost 300, and now it's climbing back. I think right now as we speak, it's about 300, 304, 305, something like that. But
it was under 300 on this morning. I don't know if the situation changed, but it didn't get back yet.
Yeah, but
the point is, sorry if I interrupt you. The point is,
go ahead.
One of the main reason that it could have happened is because once reached the 400 marks, there could have been some kind of auto selling at 400 mark, and the market had a huge drop because everyone sold at 400. You can see the value that goes like 399 point something, and then it drops dramatically to $218, so half the value, and the market is still trying to recover that lost value.
It's recovered to a certain extent. It's recovered to a certain extent, but it's certainly not back to where it was. I mean, 400 was insane, but it breached 400 for a very short time actually. So if you look, so if you actually think about it, 350, 360, 370 is the right place for Ethereum to be pre the jump to 400. So it's getting there, but yeah, slowly. And that's actually, I mean, it's not so bad because anything that goes up so fast, scares people. For one, you just automatically start thinking that, hey, is it a bubble, or what's going on? And also, a lot of these currencies are actually weighted against Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's become like the gold de facto standard, and then all these currencies are kind of being weighted against it, just like how currencies used to be when in the 70s and the 80s before they kind of got disconnected from gold. But earlier, you could only print as much currency as you had gold, right? So that's basically kind of it. Not really, but yeah.
Well, the thing with the whole binding to Bitcoin is easy to cash out into like dollars or euros or whatever other currency you're actually going to go shopping with or pay your rent with. Whereas, so basically, since Bitcoin is the easy one to transfer into those, you end up every currency, like you mine your ETH, you convert it into Bitcoin, you sell it for USD. So if Bitcoin crashes, your ETH, which you were planning to push through Bitcoin, which is now crashed, is devalued because Bitcoin went down. Not necessarily. So you get the sort of chained effect like that, which is why we have why the currencies are so heavily tied onto Bitcoin even now.
Bitcoin. True. Yeah. And Ethereum is trying to kind of get away from it with the whole proof of work concept and stuff like that. Like they want to make a separate name for themselves, or they want to carve out a niche for themselves. And they're getting a lot of support. I mean, even the UN, the United Nations, is actually using the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain, to like get like supplies and support and like medical help and stuff like that into a lot of countries already.
That's because Ethereum really is going like beyond the original. Like Bitcoin is a coin, literally just like you can only trade with it. Whereas Ethereum is sort of looking into potentially doing things like
smart contracts,
compute power on rent through basically using the currency to pay for your compute power on the existing network that is used for running the currency as is. So
one of the interesting things about the Ethereum and the new cryptocurrencies that are out is the fact that they're performing really well on AMD cards. I mean, they're not performing great on AMD cards, but the price to performance ratio is really, really high for the AMD cards. Also because the NVIDIA cards suffer from a little bit of price premium because they're NVIDIA cards. And
actually, the price premiums have gone up on all the cards.
Everything's going up.
Everything's going up. Like you've got 1070s going for $550, $600 plus.
No, because basically the miners bought out all the 480s.
Everything.
Right? Because they were the most.
They bought the
480s, 580s, 570s, 470s, all gone. Because they were the most profitable first.
Yeah.
So once they ran out of 580s and 570s to buy, they started buying 1060s because, it's not as profitable, but it's still profitable. Buy it.
True.
Because
and then they moved on and started buying 1070s once the 1060s ran out. And they've just been chewing up, and they stopped at GDDR5X because GDDR5X has apparently has a latency issue. So it really doesn't work well for mining. So 1080s are relatively safe, except for the side effect that high 1070 prices are driving people who are buying gaming cards into the 1080 market because you don't really have another choice at that point.
That's very true.
They're basically, the miners are just causing a complete shortage on everything.
Yeah, it's chaos.
Literally everything is running out.
I mean,
truth to be told, I saw 1080s sold for $1,000. So even though they're not good for mining, everything is pushing higher the price. So
and honestly,
there's a
the 1070, the 1070 is the best card out there right now. If you actually look at the specs and if you look at the power it uses and the hash rate it's giving you and the ability to dual mine, the 1070 is the sweetest card out there. Period. Like you can mine at 120
you
watts.
Just wiped out all the stock.
Well, it is the sweetest card out there. It is. And I honestly, if you look at these dedicated mining cards, to me, they don't make sense. You'd much rather be, making these as gaming cards and selling them.
It looks like they just made gaming cards and ripped off everything that they didn't need.
Pretty much.
I don't think.
Yeah,
it doesn't even look like there'd be that much cost saving on them. I don't know. I haven't seen PCB pictures. I imagine they're probably chopping phases off,
Well, from the reports the reports that I'm seeing, the overclocking pretty close to what the gaming cards are, and the hash rates are pretty close to what the gaming cards are, and so is the price.
Well, yeah, but they're actually I heard that apparently Sapphire is specifically making all the mining cards with Samsung memory chips because those get you the best hash rate.
And what I found interesting was, I think on Scanner, one of these sites, they're actually listing cards by memory right now. So you can go out and look for a 1060, and it says Samsung. 1060 with Samsung memory, and they're charging a premium.
I found out Micron memory ICs scale with LN2. They get better as they get cold, so I'm going shopping for Microns.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Also, one of the things that really puts me off about the mining cards is the fact that some of those don't even have graphics output.
None of them do.
Actually,
no. Some of
I'm
them
looking at video cards, the list on video cards right now, and most of these have one DVI port.
Yeah,
that's
so
it. There's one DVI and nothing else.
Full HD 60
the ones I saw from Sapphire don't have it. The ones I saw from Galax don't have it. The ones I'm seeing
the MSI has it. The Asus has it, so it's a mix.
It depends on the manufacturer,
because then at least they have some sort of resale value.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
You could still use it as a Crossfire card.
Yeah.
If you want to mess with that whole nothing actually runs.
Yeah, exactly. Now that the CF
and you can't actually SLI a 1060, so a 1060 mining card for SLI doesn't work. So
doesn't work, yeah.
Well, technically you can in the X12 with the
but how many games actually support that? Because at that point you're not relying on NVIDIA to give you drivers that may or may not support this feature that they're actually trying to sell you. You're relying on game devs to support a completely niche use case on DirectX 12. It's nobody's going to do it. I mean, Ashes of the Singularity is the only game that supports multi-GPU on DirectX 12 properly. And most review, I do some contract work for Gamers Nexus, and talking to Steve about Ashes of the Singularity, it's nobody plays it. Everybody just uses it as a benchmark. It's pretty much 3D Mark at this point.
Yeah.
I actually do, but I'm one of a kind, so that doesn't really matter. Speaking of one of a kind, there was a really singular flaw that was found in the Kaby Lake and Sky Lake lineups. It seems that with the HT on, the hyperthreading, the simultaneous multi-threading, called by Intel hyperthreading, suffers from a bug, a flaw, a defect, call it any way you want, that under certain Linux distributions, the system completely freezes and reboots. So it's a really, really concerning problem, because other than freezing, this flaw could be used to inject malware, so malicious software and stuff like that. And Intel said to be working at a microcode fix, but I'm not an ICT engineer, but I think that if the problem is on the hardware level, all they can do, as Buildzoid suggested me a couple of days ago, is to basically block that kind of instruction completely. I mean, it's just a patch on it. It's not anything really resolutive. So what do you think about it, guys?
It's basically like a mandate situation. I mean, you kind of patch it in such a way that, no software can really access those registers, and therefore doesn't give you a crash. But it's happening regardless of OS. If your software can actually trigger, if your software can trigger that particular pattern, where it needs it, it's kind of like a perfect storm where everything has to line up for like it to crash. And if your software can actually trigger that, then you will get a crash regardless of whatever OS you're running on. So I think you can have software guys program around it by just not trying to use those registers, or you can basically say
Intel
that
can just microcode patch it, where they say like
exactly.
I don't know how much control they would have, but they might be even able to say, like, if you have this instruction, this instruction, this instruction, and then just do a pause and then wait for the next one, so that maybe you'll slow down some normal instructions that wouldn't cause it, but at least if that one that would cause it was about to turn up, you haven't actually triggered the issue. So they can pretty much block it in that sense, where they just stop those instructions for either that instruction pattern or that very specific instruction from ever running.
Pretty much.
And that more or less fixes it.
It's a performance loss, though. Because
you might lose some performance. Like if your workload is running that pattern of instructions, then right now your performance is 0 because it crashes.
Crashes, exactly.
Yeah. So if you can run it slower and it doesn't crash, that's a win.
That's a win.
Well, you can still buy AMD.
All right.
You can buy AMD.
You've got now RiseInPro. But
exactly.
So
RiseInPro came out today.
Yeah, I was reading about RiseInPro, and it's actually, they've fixed almost 40 different things that their errata was saying that, they've got bugs in errata. So they fixed about 30 to 40 different bugs, which is really interesting. I mean, you could even see better IMCs here. You could see slightly better clocks.
That's what I actually heard that. I heard that core clock shouldn't change, but there was a lot of work on the SoC portion in terms of bug fixing. So we might be seeing even better memory overclocking on these new steppings that are used for the Pro CPUs. I think also Epic runs the same dies, and Threadripper should be also on these dies. I imagine the consumer Ryzens might transition to them after a long enough time period of selling.
True. I mean,
if they run out of the first stepping, then they'll eventually have to transition to the new one, even for like the consumer chips. But who knows when that'll happen? We don't know how much stock AMD has. So
that's true. That's true. But I mean, interesting things happening even on from all fronts. With CPUs, right from these bugs coming out from Kaby Lake. I mean, the Intel HD bug to the whole fiasco with X299 that's gone around, and there's just lots and lots of interesting stuff happening. But in terms of this, I just hope that this is actually fixable, because for the people that are suffering from this bug or have encountered it, I mean, short of changing their hardware or going AMD or buying another different CPU motherboard combination, I don't think there is really a fix right now.
Yeah. Also, the new Intel X299 launch was a little bit shattered all around, because there's been a lot of CPU launched. We have 2 4-core CPUs, one 6-core, one 8-core, one 10-core, one 12-core, up to 18 cores with the new Intel X299 platform. We don't have the 14 to 18 cores yet.
Those are coming, I think, in October. I think those are coming October, November.
As far as I know, they're expected between August and October, so it's really close. It's just a couple of months away. At most, it's gonna be 3 months. So we're gonna see how they perform. But one of the problems that Roman Derbauer noticed about the X299 boards, at least on lower end boards, because he, in his video about the X299 VRM situation, he only showed
Gaming
low
3 from Gigabyte, Asus Prime, and
the Prime. Yeah, the Prime is not a low end board.
MSI SLI board, the crazy carbon fiber decked out one.
Yeah, the carbon.
Yeah, but it's not the high-end one.
Yeah, no. But isn't the high-end one like Godlike again or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The last
M7 or Godlike.
Well, also, the Asus board is definitely premium. That one is like $500. So
the Prime.
The Prime is $500.
And wasn't it the X299?
It's a pretty high-end board.
It was the A board. Not the deluxe. It was the A board.
It was the A board. Well, but I mean, considering that the deluxe and the A pretty much have the same design, I think even the deluxe will suffer from the same issue. So
actually, that's something I'm also really worried about. Is like Gigabyte. I have pictures of the X299 Gaming 9 VRM.
Yeah.
And it looks really similar to the Gaming 3 VRM.
Oh boy.
I think the thing is, the actual power components in those VRMs are fine. They're using international rectifier. Like, so far, everything I've seen has been international rectifier, 3555 power stages or 3556 power stages, which are 50 and 60 amp power components. They're not the best 60 amp power stages that IR makes. That would be the 3575. These are slightly less efficient. They're significantly cheaper. But they can certainly handle X299 current levels. The main problem is they're going to throw off some heat. And as Roman basically said, like, you stick a fan on the VRM, it's cold. There's no problem. But you leave just the heatsink on it and you don't really do anything about it, and it overheats extremely fast, which basically tells us these aren't heat sinks, are they?
They're
not really doing their job very well.
Yeah, not at all, actually.
So, I have to say something about his video. He said that with an AIO, the heatsink for the VRM won't be cooled as good as with an air cooler. But as far as my experience goes, there's still a lot of airflow inside of the case that cools the VRM heatsinks. He ignored this thing. I mean, as you said in your comment under his video, you can either have a fan on your heatsink or a fan on the VRM.
Like, that was pretty much what I said about, like, if you're overclocking AM3 Plus, you put a fan on the VRM because those boards just are
burn up and die. Yeah.
Awful, absolutely awful. You stick a fan on the VRM on those, you're fixed. The problem is most users can't figure out how to stick a fan on a VRM. Which, to be fair, is complicated. Like, it does, like, you know, most users actually care about how it looks. They're not just going to zip tie the fan to the first loose bit of metal that they see, which is usually what I do. And since I also run horizontal cases, I can usually just sit the fan right on top of it and it'll stay there thanks to gravity. But so basically the fix of, like, stick a fan on your VRM, it's like my motherboard's like this. Fan does not stick, right? So basically the heatsinks should be better, but I do believe that in a lot of cases you have the motherboards like this fans, which will be pulling air right past the VRM heatsink.
Exactly.
So
even from the AIO, it's still airflow.
Yeah, depends on it. Definitely you'll get some airflow. So I think the zero airflow scenario is not really an ideal test scenario.
What I really want to know is,
I think he should have stuck it in a case. Stuck it in a case and had fans over it, and
possible
also
in a regular
I think
usage environment.
Yeah, like 240 millimeter AIO exhaust fan setup, because that's what most people run for
and
high end.
Also, basically, if the fact that the heatsink wasn't getting hot would tell me something else, that the thermal pads aren't working, but he said that when he measured the heatsink temperature, it was also 89, 90 degrees. So that means the heatsink is getting pretty warm. It's just not getting airflow to take that heat away. Or maybe is there no surface area to actually radiate the heat fast enough?
The thing is like some of those heat sinks have LEDs literally embedded into them.
Yeah. So I don't think there's surface area or mass. Maybe that's the problem. They just don't have enough mass and surface area.
And the other thing is they also cover them in stickers, right? Which I don't know how thermally conductive a sticker is, but
not much.
Make a pretty good guess that they're less conductive than bare aluminum.
They're blocking.
So it's just like these heat sinks that we're seeing now. It's like on Z270, a lot of I've seen a few people already do call out Z270 heatsink designs where it's just a block of aluminum pretty much sitting on the MOSFETs. There, it's not really a problem. You have all this space around the socket that the PCB will sink the heat. And Z270 doesn't pull that much power. That's the main thing. It's like Z270, even 5 gigahertz, 3 phases, doesn't blow up. The little ITX board I have covered in Plastidip doesn't have a major VRM thermal issue. It gets hot, but it's not like major issues.
To the point where they're overheating and cooking themselves.
And so on Z270, the block heatsink's sure, do whatever. You could literally make the heatsink look like a flower. You could probably even make it entirely out of plastic. It wouldn't be a problem. X299, you have a VRM crammed between these 8 memory slots. Right? Which, you have no space at all. And then you have a CPU that easily pulls 2 to 3 times more power than an overclocked Kaby Lake. So
even
it's
more
just
than that.
You need a lot of heatsink at that point. It's not, because you end up with all of this heat that would normally be dissipated over a bigger area, just jammed into this tiny little space. And then they put a heatsink that, quite frankly, these days they're more aesthetics oriented than actual performance.
RGB everything.
Yeah,
unfortunately, we're moving into that direction. It's
shoved into it. But yeah, so I definitely think the heatsinks could see some improvement. But I also say Roman's testing with just zero airflow, it's that's not really that fair a test.
Speaking of this kind of testing, he also said that the cables from the PSU were really hot, 60 to 70 degrees.
Yeah.
And
that's
one thing that
because
he used
the board's just pulling too much current.
No, it's not because of the board. It's because of the PSU design.
Yeah, the Superflower, the Superflower 9-pin universal connector does not have as many 12-volt I think it has enough grounds, but it doesn't have as many 12-volt lines as a full 8-pin EPS connector would normally have. That's because the 9-pin universal connector, being universal, includes a 5 volt, a 3.3 volt.
And it has also the LED base because the connectors are LED lit. So it takes heat from that too. So Johnny Guru said, you have an AX 1500i behind you. Why don't you use that? Yeah. And he was totally right. I pulled more than 400 watts from my CPU with my PSU, the AX 1500.
I've done it through an
and I've never had a single problem. The cables are ambient temperature, so I think it's a combination of things.
By spec, the power cables should handle 8.5 to 9 amps per conductor. And you have 4 of them. In a proper fully spec cable, you have 4 of them, and then you have 4 for ground. It's not like the GPU 8-pin where you have 3 12 volts, 3 grounds, and then 3 sense lines. This is proper 412, 4 ground. These connectors, I've pushed 300, 400 watts through an 8-pin without really worrying about it in the slightest. And then I saw this, and I was
never worried.
Yeah, it's this is a little bit weird, and it turns out that the power supply he uses doesn't actually have what you should have for 12-volt lines and 4 ground. Well, I think it does have the 4 ground, but it won't have the 4 12-volt because you can only really fit 312 on there, because then you'd have the 5 volt and the 3.3 volt, and it's a 9-pin connector. So basic math, you have 4 ground, and you have 3 12 volts, and that gives you your 9.
So it's 33% for each cable. More current than it should.
He's pushing quite a bit more current through each of those cables. So I mean, for people who own that superflower type power supply, that's bad. That's actually a problem. True. But it's not so much the motherboard needs 2 power connectors. It's more like you shouldn't use a superflower universal 9-pin connected power supply with X299.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, other than that, the X299 launch saw some controversy because of the lanes distribution among all the lineup.
Yeah.
If you
also
just
the memory.
take a look.
Also the memory. We can't forget KB Lake X and its 2 channels.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's say it was a little bit all over the place, because we have 4 cores CPUs, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Let's stop at the CPUs now available. We'll discuss.
I haven't seen a 12. Like I know the 10 is available. I haven't seen the 12 yet. But
the 12 isn't. The 12 isn't available yet.
Yeah, so we're still waiting.
Oh,
for
it is not? Oh, okay.
No,
so
the 12 is coming in August as well.
Okay, I thought it was available already. Never mind, it's my fault. So I think the launch should have been up to 12 cores in August, just like X99 3 years ago. It was on August 29th, 2014. So I think it was a replica of the same window for
that's probably what they were scheduling for. But the thing is, you have Ryzen, which, quite frankly, makes the current X99 lineup look really bad.
Really bad.
Because the 6950X is $1,700 or $1,500, and then you have the 6900K, which is $1,000.
Yeah.
And it's faster than an 1800X. But the problem is it's not that much faster. So
if you're twice as fast, because it's twice.
It's like if I'm choosing an 8-core and my options are X99 and X370, then I'll just buy a 1700. I won't even buy the 1800X because the 1800X is also overpriced. To be completely honest, you can get a 1700 for $300, and you can get a motherboard for half the price of a 6900K.
Yeah,
right? That's you can get like motherboard CPU for half the price of a 6900K. So Intel needed an answer, and so they forced the X299 launch earlier. Is what I think happened. It looks like that's what they actually did.
Yeah, and
the problem is also I don't know why they launched.
They've screwed it up. Honestly, they've screwed it up. And if they just look, majority of the workstation market, at least the entry-level workstation market in third world countries and poorer countries, has been their 6-core CPU. Because you can get your 40 lanes, you can plug whatever the hell you want into it, and you're good. And most of these guys, at least the video people, who quite a few of them are my clients here, they're actually up in arms. Like, the actual industry here is up in arms right now, because they're like, look, if you're telling me that a month from now or 2 months from now, you can't give me the same functionality for the same money, what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, I can't, because Intel's just decided to charge you a lot more money for 40 lanes of PCIe. So
the thing is, they could have totally done another 6-core 40-lane CPU. They could have totally done it. They could have put it at $500, and the people buying entry-level workstations who need 40 lanes but don't need 10 cores could have gone for their 40-lane CPU, and they would have been happy. Because the thing is, right now what's happening is, like, if you need 40 lanes, right, you need 40 lanes.
Exactly.
You don't. It's like, I can't PLX my lanes, because then you have the bandwidth being switched between who knows how many actual devices. If those devices flood whatever is actually going into that PLX chip, it's over.
You're doomed. It's over. Exactly.
It's like you might be recording video. Oh, look, it's choppy. The footage is corrupted because we can't push it through whatever switch you're running instead of actual PCIe connectivity. So
I've actually seen stuff like that happen. Like with sound cards, it's common because a lot of them run USB drivers that are actually out of USB spec. A lot of these sound cards, they try and push like 35, 36 channels over USB 2, USB 3, and they're violating USB spec. They are, and they actually make a note of this. Like, there's Antelope Audio, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so these guys actually mention, and it's a well-known fact that they're violating USB spec. So on motherboard USB ports, it doesn't work. I have to give most people a dedicated USB card for that sound card to work flawlessly. It doesn't work off your motherboard I/O. It just doesn't. And there's all kinds of bullshit where most of the guys now they want to run Premiere or they want to run color correction like DaVinci Resolve and stuff like that. Everything needs dual GPU. They need lots of storage because they're operating at 4K, 6K, 8K, all of that stuff. And so they need RAID cards in their system. You know, they can't just do with like 4, 5, 8, 10 TB. They're running 30, 40 TB in their system. They're running dual GPUs. They're running a Red Rocket card. They're running a Blackmagic card. I mean, this is just an average run-of-the-mill entry-level video workstation. And this market, I mean, I cannot sell systems to my clients in all honesty saying that, yeah, this is going to do your job, because it's not. It's just not going to handle everything you want to throw at it. Plus, you know, you look for M.2 and you look for all of that stuff, and that just takes away even more bandwidth from a 28-lane CPU or a 16-lane CPU. Leaves you nothing. It's just nuts. I don't get this. At least the 8-core or a special 40-lane 6-core, and you can save a lot of the market. It's 70% of the market here in India with the 6-core CPU. I sell 8 of those machines for maybe 2 8-core systems. So, you know, I know what the size of the market is for those CPUs, and they've literally walked themselves out of this market, like committed hierarchy. It's suicidal. I don't understand.
I mean, I think Intel probably thinks it's like, okay, well, if you want your 40 lanes, you're now forced to buy a Xeon, which more money for us.
More money for us.
What happened?
Yeah. But because the thing is like, for 6 cores Xeon, if you want actual decent performance, like you can get cheap 6-core Xeons, right?
Yeah.
But they're clocked at like under 2 gigahertz.
2 gigahertz, exactly. What are you gonna do?
It's like, what is this? A toaster?
Yeah, really.
At that point, a 5 gigahertz 4-core is faster.
It's gonna annihilate it.
Multi-threaded,
Exactly.
literally anything you throw at it, a single 4-core is gonna beat it. So it's like, what is like? So basically, they force you to buy Xeon-priced parts to get the features that used to be basically $550 CPU bracket.
Exactly.
And let's not forget, X299 had the i7 3820 and the 4820K, which both had the full lane amount for that chipset. So it's like Intel's basically gone like, okay, we're just going to force everybody doing workstations and try force them into the Xeons, or try force them up to the $1,000 price point.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work because
now there's competition.
I was actually having this conversation with a client. So I'm actually in talks with this news agency here that are setting up a studio, and they were looking at buying 40 odd workstations, literally 40 or 44 workstations. And so throughout the meeting, they were like, we can't believe the fact that you're saying buy now and buy older generation hardware and not wait for the newer generation to come. And I was like, yeah, can I please explain myself? And I went through the whole thing, and they were left there just scratching their heads. They're like, so you're telling me that my cost of deployment is going to go up by almost $600 per machine into 40 machines? That's like $25,000 or $30,000 more. I'm not going to put that kind of money, you know, like what about my return on investment? I'm going to take another 6-8 months, you know, to recover this money. So return on investment goes out the window at these prices. And the guys who deploy these CPUs in big quantities are these media houses and stuff, and they just don't want to touch a $1,000 CPU. They want it done in $500 and $600 because that's what they've been paying all this while. So suddenly you can't just say, pay me more. It doesn't work. Yeah,
and I think when Threadripper drops, that's going to be...
It's going to send...
It's going to, like... I don't honestly like. I think Intel has sort of from some point. Intel definitely sees X299 as more as a marketing stunt than an actual profitable platform. Because at the end of the day, all of the X299 CPUs except Kaby Lake X are Xeons for non-Xeon prices. So if you were Intel and you never ever sold us X99 anything, you'd be happy, right? It'd be great because you were selling Xeons and they cost way more.
So like the 12 cores are the 12 cores up to 12 cores is I think the low core count silicon, and then from 12 cores onwards you've got 8cc.
It's
HCC and XCC. So But still, you're getting a CPU that they would happily sell at $4,000 for
yeah, exactly. A fully enabled Xeon with the QPI links running is so much money.
Much money, exactly.
And it's just like now they're forced to sell. So basically, they're selling these CPUs at i7 price points and i9 price points, and they basically decided, well, it's chewing into Xeon profits way too much as it is right now.
Yeah.
Kill it. Just completely kill it. Make sure we still have the highest core count, right? Because Threadripper goes up to 16.
Yeah.
Threadripper goes up to 16 core. And they're like, okay, so we have 18 cores. Two more. Yeah. We're better.
Two more. We're better.
And then they have Gigabyte X, which destroys single-threaded. Just absolutely dominates. It's literally Gigabyte even faster. You could.
It's an overclocker's dream. Okay,
for extreme overclocking, X299 is great.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's awesome.
You buy one motherboard and it does everything.
Everything.
It does SuperPi, it does Aquamark, it does Ancient Legacy 3D, it does 3D Mark Firestrike, it does Time Spy, because you can stick an 18 core in it, you can stick a 4 core in it.
Exactly.
It does everything. The problem is
memory controllers are awesome. Like I saw 4800 on Air and stuff like that at Computex. So the memory controllers are awesome. It's a great platform to bench, but value proposition for deployments and for stuff like that, I don't think so. And the beauty about this whole conversation was that, okay, so they turn around and they look at me and they say, okay, so we've heard about, AMD, Ryzen and stuff like that. So I'm like, yeah, exactly. But what you want to wait for is Threadripper, because if I can give you, a 10-core Threadripper with 64 lanes at like $700 or $600, your job's done. I'm giving you 10 cores, I'm giving you them at $700 a CPU, and I can overclock them. It's not like you can't. You can overclock it a little bit, not too much, but for sure a little bit. And yeah, they get everything they need in a system. It's not too much more money. And if Intel had just given the 8-core CPU 40 lanes, it would be job done.
Yeah, but they would never sell another 8-core Xeon without the QPI link.
Yeah, true.
And they could not they would not live that down. I mean, X299 doesn't even support ECC, whereas Ryzen supports ECC, Threadripper supports ECC. Literally everything from AMD has always supported
ECC. Throughout,
it's just like, and then Intel is like, oh, no, see, that's a Xeon feature. You can't have that. And it just dictates everything Intel has done to the high-end desktop platform. And so you see weird things like Gigabyte X, like the PCIe lane segmentation we're getting. It's because, well, they want to be the fastest, right?
Yeah.
They want to be the fastest, but they don't want to sell Xeons for sub-Xeon prices. So we end up with what we have now in X299, which for extreme overclocking, the platform is amazing. Because that seems to be the only consideration they had.
There's only one.
Will we have all the world records when we sell this?
There's only one small problem. The fact is that according to recent stats, only 5% of the computers available on the market are actually capable of overclock. And 3% of that 5% is actually extreme overclocked. So non-conventional cooling. Just like dry ice, LN2, liquid helium. So it's such a tight
but
percentage.
as long as Intel can say, we did 7 gigahertz and we have 18 cores, they're happy. Literally. That's basically, high-end desktop has done its part. We no longer care.
The problem is, now that Threadripper is going to launch.
Because these guys, so I had the whole conversation with them, and they were like, okay, in that case, if you can give us 10 cores at $700, which I'm expecting Threadripper to come out at least for the 8 or 10 core, which it will, I know. And so you've got 64 lanes, you've got it all, or you've got 128 lanes on a 1P processor with EPYC. If you want to go the Xeon route, I'd buy the 32-core EPYC CPU for like $2,000, which is what they're selling it at.
Yes.
32 core, 64 threads, 128 lanes of PCIe. Job done. I mean, half price of the Xeon. So they've
and you have almost double the cores. You have almost 3 times the
PCIe.
Yeah. Because 128 compared to 44 is quite huge as a number. So let's say it's a bad moment for Intel.
It is. It is.
debug, the rushed launch for Skylake and Kaby Lake X, the X299 VRM. Let's call it fiasco with quotation marks.
It looks like it might be a problem, but I say we need more testing. Needs more testing. Definitely needs more testing.
In the next couple of weeks, I will receive a couple of X299 boards, so I'll try to replicate the problem. But using an AX 1500i, I'm not a super flower PSU. So we can be sure, we can put all the variables away, and we can be sure of the boards, not anything else. Guys, I think that this is pretty much it for tonight's show. And right after the show, there's going to be an after party where we will take a look at the PC1 Mini, a really cool looking product from Stricom, the same from the BC1, the original BC1 open bench table that some of us already have and use in our daily tests and benchmarks. You can see one in Buildzoid window right now. I actually have one on my desk, but I don't want to move the setup because
I have the first gen, the original guy. I don't have the new one, but I have the
So we're looking forward to the BC1 Mini. I actually saw that at the Computex, but it doesn't matter. And we will reply to any question the chat has for us. So guys, shoot your questions and we will be here for you. I think that's great.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Goodbye, guys.
Well, I guess that's it then. All right. Have a good one, guys. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, have a great day, evening, night, and we'll catch you next week. Morning. All of it.
Bye-bye.
All right, yeah, we're back live, still live. We might actually, let me move the cameras. It's Truthman here speaking with all the guys. Thank you very much, guys, for being here tonight. That was an awesome show, and I do appreciate you guys actually taking over the show. I have to say that, like this